Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nisari, ready to start reading, inshallah?
Yes.
Okay, so with page 12, when we were reading with page 12, we explained that there are certain situations that we need to understand as far as wajib al-wujud is concerned. Please make sure that you spend some time watching those clips and those things that we shared with understanding wajib al-wujud, mumkin al-wujud, and mumtani' al-wujud. Necessary existence, contingent existence, impossible existence. This is extremely, extremely important because this is what we're going to base our primary argument on, called Burhan al-Imkan, the argument of contingency. Okay? Remember what we said when we were explaining how we are able to base the mawdu' and mahmul on. And we said that with the mawdu' we have al-insan. And then with the mahmul we have mawjud. What did we say the mawdu' was? What was mawdu' in English again? Subject. And the mahmul? What was it? Mahmul. Predicates. Remember when we said that? Remember when we explained that? This is probably the 20th time that we're explaining this again and again. Predicates. Can you sit down, please, Mr. Brother? Al-insan mawjud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mawjud. What was the other example that we gave?
Unicorn.
What's this?
Al-unicorn.
Al-unicorn. Mawjud. Is there a difference between this and this and this?
Yes.
There is a difference. So even though we are using the same word, wujud, which is the mahmul, which is the predicate, the mawdu' is going to be different. Why? Because with the insan, like for example, you have Zayd or Bakr or Zainab, okay? Whether they exist, other than Zayd, whether they exist or don't exist, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Their existence or their non-existence is insignificant. What's funny?
Other than Zayd?
Yeah, other than their their existence or non-existence is insignificant in the sense that if they don't exist, nothing's going to happen to the rest of creation. Right? So their existence is, as we said, mumkin, contingent, possible. Right? Their level of existence is 50-50. Right? With the unicorn, what level of existence is it? Huh? 0%. What about with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What level of existence is He? 100. But that's yet to be proven, isn't it? That's yet to be proven. This is still a muqaddimah that we're studying in order for us to get to the argument of contingency. That's yet to be proven. But here clearly we can see, right? By default, we're able to see and say that there's a big difference between these kind of existences. Where you do have an existence, whether they exist or not, doesn't really matter. This particular plant, for example, or this particular human being, for example. And then we have certain things that don't exist. Now, this could probably be a bad, in your opinion, could probably be a bad example for mumtani' al-wujud. Because really, is it impossible for a unicorn to exist? Huh? No, it's not impossible. Right? What did we say on the other dars? There was this, what was that animal?
No.
Huh?
Now.
Narwhal.
No. Yeah.
Narwhal. Sounds like Nawi. Does exist, but in the sea. Okay, so this is it's a bad example, I know, but just, for us to, make a good comprehension of the particular topic. So there are cases where it's mumtani' al-wujud. For example, let's give a better example, an ocean of mercury. Bahrun min zi'baq. Right? Okay? So for example, that's, going to be naturally impossible.
What if there's a no, there might be a planet somewhere far away that has.
Have you been there? Have you been there?
No,
Have you been there?
It's mumkin, isn't it?
So basically, can I just clarify? So God is a necessary existence. He's with that which has to exist for all of existence to exist. Everything else is contingent upon, it doesn't really have, it can exist, it can't exist. If it does exist or doesn't exist, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But with the last one, the impossible existence, it's not about the fact that could it exist or not. It's the fact that, from what I understand, we go based off the system of causation. So every cause has an effect. The effect can't be before the cause, right?
Yeah.
So it is impossible for something to exist without a cause.
No.
Right?
No.
So
That's not what we mean by impossible existence.
What do you mean by impossible existence?
What we mean by impossible existence is it is impossible for it to exist. At all. Okay? That's why I'm saying unicorn is a bad example, but we gave an example of ijtima'un naqidain, for example. Two contradictory things being one at one time. This is either black or it's white. It can't be black and white at the same time.
It is black and
This is, right?
It's the outer is white.
Yeah, that's it. It's either black or it's white. It can't be black and white at the same time in the same case. Because if you did mix black and white together, it will become gray. So it's not going to be black and white anymore. Or hot and cold. It's either hot or it's cold or it's warm. It can't be hot and cold at the same time. Right? I'm waiting for Hasan to say something.
it can be.
See, I thought so. I knew it.
It's called I think it's called thermocline. It's the barrier between different waters of different temperatures in the ocean.
Thank you so much.
But that's not because the unicorn is.
Yeah, but let's not use the example of unicorn. As I said, it's a bad example. But something that, for example, a mountain, a gold mountain, for example.
But is it because it's not part of the system of wajib al-wujud?
No.
It's away from the system of natural.
No. What did you want to say?
I'm trying to think of an example.
Like a flat earth. Like a speaking stone.
Oh.
What?
Like a rock talking.
For example. Or big being smaller than bigger.
Or a square circle.
Or a square circle.
Yeah.
Right? In high dimensions, you can have a square circle. Yeah, that's something that Hasan would say. Okay, so here we're talking about Aslan. Even if we remove mumtani' al-wujud, even if we don't even talk about this, right? Even if we don't talk about this anymore, let's forget this altogether. And we say that here we have things that are existing in the world, right? Did they exist by necessity, or are they equal in the balance of whether they can exist or should exist or don't exist? Answer is, it is going to be contingent. As for the claim of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we've mentioned here in the previous dars, it's going to be, no, it is necessary for God to exist. Because you're going to have the issue, as the sister said, of causality, which means that this is either going to be dependent on itself or dependent on something else. So you've got two cases here. One is dependent on itself, two is dependent on something else. If it's dependent on itself, then it means that it needs to be simple. It needs to be basit. Because if it was compound, if it was murakkab, then one part would need the other, right? For murakkab things or compound things, they need each of its own other parts. Okay? If it's depending on something else, what's that other thing that it's depending on? If it's depending on something else being itself, what's going to happen here? Dawr. What did we say dawr was? Vicious circle. If it's going to be depending on something else, not depending on itself, right? Not depending on itself, then in this case, it's going to become tasalsul. It will become tasalsul if we don't stop. What did we say tasalsul was? An infinite regress. In the case of an infinite regress, the only way for us to solve the case of an infinite regress is to say that there is a beginning, there is a mabda, and that's why philosophers, they refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as illatul ilal, the cause of causes, or the prime cause, or the uncaused cause. Or they refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as al-mabda al-awwal, right? The prime beginning, the first beginning. That's what philosophers refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as. Okay? Right? Start reading.
Where would you like me to start from? I know where we start from. Do you want to go back or?
Just by maybe a sentence.
Okay. The second matter is the characteristics of the possible, which are three.
First matter was the characteristics of the wajib, and now it's the characteristics of the mumkin.
First, one of the two sides. I mean, existence and non-existence is not better for it than the other.
Okay, that means that they are both absolutely equal. متساوي الطرفين في الوجود والعدم 50-50, as you can see up here, right?
But both are equal in relation to it, like the two sides of a balance.
Two sides of a scale, not balance. Yeah, it's in the footnote it says scale.
And making one of the two sides to creep on the rate certainly becomes about by a cause outside of itself.
Okay, so what brings it out of the realm of 50-50?
Like something else?
Something else brings it out of the realm of 50-50. It can't be itself, because if it was itself, that itself is bringing itself out, doesn't make sense. So it needs to be something else bringing it out of the realm of wujud wal-adam, mutasawi al-tarafain.
For if one of them were better for it than the other, that the occurrence of the other, that is the worse, either comes about or it does not.
Okay, if we were to say that there is a preference of one side over the other by itself, within itself, what is the reason for that? In theological principles, we refer to this as tarjih bila murajjih. Tarjih bila murajjih. Tarjih bila murajjih is giving preference to something without some kind of preference to that particular thing. You've got two things here. You've got one being, for example, of this level and one being of that level. And both of them have certain qualities. Now, why are you choosing this one without there being some kind of preference? Because of age, because of niceness, because of quality, because of this? Absolutely no reason. Is that something that a hakim person, a wise person would do? No. So there must be some form of tarjih. What's tarjih mean? Preference, pulling preference. Right? Read that sentence again.
Well, if one of them were better for it than the other, then the occurrence of the other, that is the worst, either comes about or it does not.
Right.
If the worst occurs, then being better is not a sufficient cause. And if the worst does not occur, then the first supposition regarding it is necessary for it. That is, the one alternative is better for it than the other.
Okay. And if the worst does not occur, then the first supposition regarding it is necessary for it that is. Yani for that which it is. This is really bad translation, but the person who edited it also didn't do a very good job as well. That one alternative is better for it than the other. Then the first supposition regarding it is necessary. That one alternative is better for it than the other, which is what I just explained of tarjih. In this case, the possible either becomes necessary or the impossible, and that can't be, right? So when you have this 50-50, and when you want to choose the better, when you want to choose the worse, without any particular objective to it, then of course it's going to either mean that it's going to be necessary or it's going to be impossible. Second,
the possible needs mu'athir. Mu'athir.
mu'athir. Mu'athir comes from the word athar. Athar means cause, like illah.
For when the two sides, its existence and non-existence, are equal in relation to it.
50-50, as we said. Two sides are 50-50, whether it exists or whether it doesn't exist. It's wujud or it's adam.
The preponderance of one of the two over the other is not possible unless there is something to cause a preponderance.
What's preponderance? Preponderance? Tarjih. Write that down, please. Tarjih up the top or down the bottom. Tarjih bila murajjih. Tarjih bila murajjih.
Very similar points, 1 and 2, Sheikh. Like the second that we just read.
The second, we're
Oh, sorry.
yeah. Say it, repeat that again, please, Nisar.
Second, the
For
possible.
when
For when the two sides,
the two sides of wujud wa adam, of 50-50, are equal in relation to it, are equal in relation to contingency, right? In this case, how is it going to come out from the level of 50-50 into becoming either impossible or into becoming either necessary? It can't happen in this case Because if that was the case, then you are giving preference and favoring one over the other without a valid reason, right? Are equal in relation to it. The preponderance, yani the preference of one of the two over the other is not possible unless there is something to cause that preponderance or preference, and that is the wajib. So you have mumkin on two levels, 50-50. Can that mumkin itself change from 60-40? If we say that mumkin itself can change from 60-40, what was it that made that decision of it becoming 60-40? What was it? Itself or something else? What was it? Was there a preference of some kind, or wasn't there a preference? If there was a preference, then that would become necessary and this would become impossible. If there isn't, and they stay as 50-50, something else needs to change it from that state of 50-50 and make it either existing or non-existing. And that can only be the wajib. Why? Because it's external, it's not within it, it's not a part of the 50-50. Unless, underline that, unless there is something else to cause that preponderance. And this is, of course, badihi. This is obvious. This is self-evident. Right? Next.
The possible which abides needs a mover, not only to bring it into existence, but also to continue it in existence.
Okay, so we know that with the muharrik or with the mu'athir, you need it to bring it out of the state of 50-50. Yani you need to bring it into existence. Do we believe, like some religions, that yes, you need God to be the prime mover, but you don't need God to be in continuation, continuously involved? No, you don't. So the initial Big Bang thing that happened with God, but then doesn't necessarily mean that God needs to continue on with that. And that's why point number 3 is very important, because it says that our relationship with God, or God's relationship with existence, is not a one-off thing. It is ongoing and continuous. That's why we say, Ya da'im al-Fadhil ala al-Bariyah.
But we have said this because possibility.
Read it again, please.
Third, the possible which abides needs a mover, not only to bring it into existence, but to continue it in existence.
But to continue in existence.
But we have said this because possibility is required for the quiddity of the possible, and the possibility cannot be removed from it. Otherwise, it's changed from possibility to necessity or impossibility would be required.
So that's pretty much about what we said about the 40-60 thing. Okay? Now, carry on.
Now it has already been proved that need is required for possibility.
Need, al-ihtiyaj. The main point here is that al-mumkin muhtaj. Al-mumkin muhtaj. Al-mumkin muhtaj in illah and in its own ajza. In illah, which means in the cause, and in its ajza means in its parts, because al-mumkin is murakkab. Murakkab means it is made up of parts, and each part will need the other parts. If it didn't need other parts, and if it didn't have parts, then it would be simple. It would be basit. And there is no basit other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Carry on.
And possibility is required for the quiddity of the possible.
Quiddity, يعني the mahiyya, the essence of the contingent.
Sorry? Quiddity? Of the possible. Now the requirement of something required is itself required. Hence the
What's
need-
that mean? The requirement of something required is itself required. So, al-muhtaj is muhtaj. Right? Carry on.
Hence the need of the quiddity of the possible is required, which is what we saw.
So, the need of the quiddity of the possible is required. The essence of the mumkin. The essence of the mumkin is muhtaj. And that's the natija, that's the result that we want to get to. As we said, when you have something that is made up of parts, like you, the human being, or a plant, those things that are a part, are they a part of you or they're a part of something else? If they are a part of you, then you need them. If you don't need them, then why would they be a part of you? Nothing's going to be a part of you that you use, that you don't use, and is made there for no sensible reason. If it's not a part of you, it's a part of something else, then it's not you, it is something else. Right? So if you have, as a human being, you are made up of 5 things. These 5 things, they are either a part of you, or 3 of them are a part of you, and 2 of them come from something else or a part of something else. Where does that other thing come from? How is that involved with you? This is important if we understand this in the correct way, because later on when we give the different scenarios of God's existence, we're going to say that there are different cases of how we can prove that God needs to be simple in his entity and also in his ability and creation. Because you could say that yes, God is one, but when it comes to the way we refer to God, we can refer to God in multiplicity, depending on the situation. Like, for example, when the Zoroastrians believed in Ahura Mazda and Ahriman, the god of good and the god of bad. And they did so because they couldn't attribute bad to God, but they believed that bad existed. So they said, God is khayru mahd, is absolute khayr. And the only way of us to solve this problem is by saying that there's another God, and he's the one that brings about bad. Or when you talk about duality, for example, in this case, or you talk about there being different gods that do different things. Zeus does this, Hades does that, Apollo does this, or a council of gods in the case of mythological Greece. What's the problem with there being multiple gods? All of them think alike. Is it possible or is it impossible? Why is it impossible? If there are multiple gods, all of them sitting down, agreeing them, all of them have long lihyas, long beards, and all of them agree, they're good with each other. They're synced with each other. They're all male, by the way, because there won't be any problems. And that was like a low blow, wasn't it?
It's on camera.
Oh yeah, I'm being recorded.
Guys, edit that out.
Yeah, Hasan, I think we should just remember what minute and second that I asked Ibrahim to do that. What's your solid argument that you have that there can't be a council of gods? Do you not believe that if our Anbiya alayhim salam, pay attention please, do you not believe that if our Anbiya alayhim salam were all living in the same town, all at the one place, would there be clash and division and fitna and problems? Would there be? Huh? There wouldn't be, of course there wouldn't be. So why can't we have multiple gods doing the exact same thing? Huh? Next week inshallah answer. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.